You owe no man nothing. You owe everything to God. You owe no man nothing but everything to God. I want to be clear in this message. This message is not for you to be ungrateful or indifferent to people when they have helped you to do some things. It is not for you to say, I don't owe you anything. I just owe God everything. This is not something that you will say to someone. Please, thank you. I appreciate it. That is okay. But there are individuals that will want to keep you under control based on the things that they've done for you. I've done a couple videos. If I do remember, I will add them. It's called They Want You to Stay with the Cheese and the Loaves. And I got that based on a teaching that the Lord laid in my heart, where David's father had sent him to prepare a cart and bring some refreshments that had cheeses and breads and things of that to take to his brothers and to the other men who were fighting against Goliath and the Philistines. And of course, David's brother thought that he was being naughty when he got there and was inquiring about what was going on. David was getting ready to reach a certain part in his life where he's going to do something that was unprecedented. No one knew that, neither did David. David just had faith in God. He took offense and will stand up against anyone who spoke against his God, regardless of who they were, despite them being a Philistine, which were the Philistines were feared severely by the Israelites, but not David. But anyway, his brother wanted him to stay back. Get back. You're being naughty. Go. Get back there. Go home. Okay? In other words, get back there with that cart. Stay in your lane. Sometimes there are people in your life that want to remind you and tell you what you're not, because they've seen you at your worst. They've seen you at your lowest. They've seen you during your breakdowns or meltdowns. They found you in a place of despondency. And because they brought you through that, whether they were the ones that gave you a place to stay, helped you out, took you off the streets, financed some things for you, brought you to church, introduced you to the ministry, whatever it may be, a lot of times, if they're not careful, they begin to take on this mindset as if they own you. So when you begin to grow, when you begin to thrive, they feel like you need to stay in a certain box. You're not supposed to surpass them. You cannot advise them. How do you advise me when you used to be the drug addict? How do you give me counsel when I was the one that was talking you out of, taking your own life? How do you talk to me when I found I found you in the corner prostituting? These are the things that will go in people's minds. Perhaps the examples are not as extreme, but maybe someone brought you in on a business, brought you in on some things, and you're coming up with ideas and things that's working, and they're getting jealous because people are liking your ideas. And they're feeling like, wait, I'm the one that brought you in on this. You should not surpass me. There are people who you may have been an apprentice and you're doing very well, but that person is getting jealous. You could be in the medical field. You could be an engineer. You could be working as a chef. You could be a teacher. You could be in a church. Whatever it may be, it could be a sport. There are people, if they've coached you and they've helped you, when you really start when you begin to become yourself and who you need to be, and you're growing and you're thriving and you're coming outside that box, there are people who wants to push you right back down. How dare you? I have another video that I did. It's called They Want You. What do I call that video? They want you to be a pigeon. and not the eagle. They don't want you to be an eagle, they want you to be a pigeon. And so what happens is sometimes you're in this phase, like a butterfly. A butterfly goes through one of the ugliest processes before they become the butterfly that soars. And they're this nasty little worm, larva, whatever, it is, caterpillar, not larva, I'm sorry, they're not that disgusting, but they are like, a caterpillar. Well, they are larva first, aren't they? Anyway, so we know that they're the caterpillar, and then they cocoon, and then they go through all these things, and then they transform, and then they become the beautiful butterfly. And sometimes people were used to you when you're in that slimy, crawly, squishy, unidentifiable stage. Then they're used to you when you're going through your stage of being in the cocoon stage. You're just sitting there, nothing's happening. They enjoy all these moments in your life, but they don't realize you had a destiny regardless. Whether you met them or someone else, God set them in your path to help you during this particular phase of your life. But you were always destined to be an eagle. You were destined to be a butterfly. You were destined to be who you were. But sometimes when people bring you in, they have this mindset of ownership. They feel like they have a patent on you. They have copyrights to you, okay? How dare you? And that was the issue that Saul had in the Bible. Saul was a king of Israel, and he had a problem because he saw David as a shepherd boy. He was okay with that. He was a shepherd boy. But then as David began to grow and began to thrive and began to mature, his gifts and his abilities, his natural ability in battle and in music, and the people loved him and they liked him. He was charismatic. He was kind. Saul began to become jealous of that. And he felt intimidated by him. And the thing is, how can you be intimidated and you are the king already? And I'm sure some of you may have faced individuals like this. You're like, why are you jealous of me? Why are you worried about me when you are in that position? You're in the leadership position. You're the one that has the money. You're the one that have the business. You're the one that have all this stuff. You're more established. You have more connection. Why are you mad at me? A lot of times, people have been like Esau, I'll give you another example in the Bible, who sold his birthright just for a moment to eat. And sometimes people, they see in you what they used to be, but then you're really thriving. They are seeing you coming up in the way your destiny as designed by God. Sometimes people took a shortcut. Sometimes people, they were following God, but they took a different path. They went their own way. And then there's some people, no matter, it has nothing to do with that. They just don't like to see anyone else thriving and doing well. There are people who, it doesn't matter if they have more than you. They don't want you to have anything either. So they'll be reminding you. How can they shame you? They want to remind you, you were a drug addict. You were an abuser. You went to prison. You didn't have a dad. You didn't have a mom. I found you on a street corner. I know what you did last summer. I know that you got pregnant before you were married. I know that you cheated on your husband. I know that you cheated on your wife. I know that your husband left you. It was me that came to pick you up when he was about to beat you up, or when she called the police on you. See, these are the things that they want to throw on you to make you shrink down and get back in line. But I have to tell you, the word of God says, who God has cleansed, what God has cleansed, let no man call unclean. And you better stop shrinking down for people and realize you owe no man but God. We, people who come in our lives and who we may cross paths with and those we may help. God placed us in that position. Any overage, any properties, any things we may have. When God brings someone in your life, God allowed you to have the excess, and God allowed us to have the abundance to be able to help this person on their way, on their path. But they don't owe us anything. Now again, it's not for you to, I am not telling anybody that you should just let people walk all over you and people take you for granted and take advantage of you, nor am I encouraging anyone to just take and say, well, God gave you the overage for me. No, that is out of line. That's disrespectful. What I'm saying is when people begin to throw things and try to overpower you and maybe blackmail you or try to put you under their feet to keep you in a place of submission, you have to remember that this person does not have this authority over you, and you are not obligated to disobey God, and you're not obligated to not walk in your destiny. You're not obligated to make yourself shrink down and feel ashamed when someone wants to throw something in your face or in an inadvertent way remind you and tell you that you're less than, because you simply want to grow, because you simply have dreams now and visions and things that you want to do, and because they're used to telling you what to do, they have a problem when you are saying, this is what I see for myself. And so when they want to do that, you need to remember that it is God who's the author and the finisher. He's your Alpha and your Omega. He's your beginning and your end. He's your first and your last. Because he is and exists, you are. So you need to remember that. They want to drag you out and throw you out there. I remember when. And that's why I always tell people, you have to be careful. Be careful of things that you want to disclose and tell people. People don't need to know your business. People don't need to know how many people you slept with. You don't need to tell that to any man or to any woman. It is none of their business. They don't need to know that. Your pastor don't need to know that. They don't need to know those things. There are certain things that you keep it between you and God. You tell him because he knows. Oftentimes people are seeking healing from people and whatever. And I need to tell them everything. I must confess. No, you do not. I mean, let me put it like this. If something has happened in your past, I know this is a little off topic, but if something has happened in your past that you know will come up again, and that could affect your life and affect your potential partner's life, you owe them the truth in telling them this so they can make a decision on if they want to embark on a relationship further with you, especially if it could affect their life, their business, their wellness, their health, everything they've built. You owe them that, okay? But if it's your past and it's things that you have worked through, you have no trails, you have no baggage, you have no things, you have gone to God, you've been healed, you've been set free. God has thrown those things into the sea of forgetfulness, and you are not obligated to sit there and spill the beans and tell people where you've been and who you've been. You don't need to do that. And that is especially that you don't need to go into the church and do it. I can tell you, I have been there at some point in my life, think I can sit with people and really share, and those church people bit me like a rabid coyote in the wild with the manes, just fur plucked out, just dusty, okay? They jumped off that altar like some antelopes and just attacked me. But thank God for every experience, my goodness. Because without that, it would not have led me to the Father. And there's nothing that will make you stronger than when you've been thrown out and God comes and finds you. Like when they threw that blind man out for the man who was blind, but now he could see, and they didn't like what he had to say, so they threw him out, and Jesus went looking for him. And when you've had that experience where people have kicked you to the curb and done you wrong, and you have to find God, and God comes and find you and build you up, there's nothing that can bring people like us down, because we realize that we can thrive, and we discover the Lord, and he came and found us, and he built us up himself. There's nothing they can do anymore. Not when you've been with your Lord. So I just want to get back on here and just tell you, let no one keep you in shame and keep reminding you about stuff and make you feel embarrassed and make you feel like you some of you know it's time for you to leave the ministry. It's time for you to go and do different things. Some of you know it's time for you to build your own business. Some of you know that it's time for you have different ideas, start your own company. You're doing well, you're embarrassed, you feel, just play your sport and be who you are. Play well. Don't let anybody make you feel bad. You're not trying to win to make someone jealous. You are talented. You can sing well. Sing. Let those notes burst forth. Do what you do. Because you're an eagle and they want you to be a pigeon. You're a lion. They want you to be a possum. You're a butterfly. They want you to be a roach. You owe no man anything other than thank you. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for helping me. But you don't owe them your soul, your lineage. You don't owe them your destiny. You don't owe them your will. You don't owe them your mind. And you don't owe them your worship. Step into your destiny, because if you don't, it's going to be your fault. It's going to be your fault. And if you're not strong enough to advocate for yourself, be strong enough to stand up through the power of God and say, I'm going to move forward. You're too weak to do anything else. God, I thank you for giving whoever's listening to me the strength to do the things that you have called them to do. I pray that they'll no longer walk in shame and condemnation. I pray that they'll no longer walk in guilt. They're not in the past. I pray they will not look back like Lot's wife, who became a pillar of salt. I pray that they will not hesitate and hang around like Lot and his family did. When the angels of God came to take them to another place, they were hanging around because they were familiar with the place. Lot was trying to convince his sons-in-laws to follow him. I pray right now, God, that people will realize it's time to look forward and to do your perfect will and to do what you have called them to do. And to realize that what they have, the goodness and the things that they have experienced through others was by your hand. Father, you gave people the overage. You gave them the extra. You gave them the ability to do those things to be able to help them. And so, Lord, I pray, God, that while one may say, thank you, I appreciate that, Lord, that they will have their eyes fixed on you and know that it is because of you that they live and they move and they have their being. So they will not begin to worship and consider the creature more than the creator. Heal their hearts, strengthen them, teach them how to learn to do things, even if it feels uncomfortable. Because what the Spirit is willing to do, the flesh, the natural mind is afraid. But if they allow themselves to be led by your Spirit, despite what they feel, the flesh will catch up. So I thank you and I praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.